Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. All right, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, and this is the one about creating a 90-day plan. 90-day plans are good. They allow you to focus on what you want to do, but it's good to have some structure in behind them. And we're going to talk about strategies around 90-day plans, maybe even look at 30 days and 60 days, because they will add up to 90 days eventually. So why do we go to 90-day plans? But I think it's a really good topic because it is about productivity, it is about focus, and it's about getting us on target. So to kick us off with that conversation, I am here today with Car Sasha. I love Car Sasha, who has been hanging out in the car. Well, we eventually got to the car, didn't we, Sasha?
Well, I just ran out of places in my office that were quiet. Everywhere I went, there was noise. I even popped into the loo, but I couldn't work out how to turn the fan off. I think I could have sat in the dark in the bathroom and the fan would have turned off.
That wouldn't have been weird.
No, that would have been really normal, and I would have been so relaxed. That would have been just so peaceful. Instead, I'm in my car, coming to you live from my car.
Well, at least it's not a hot, sweaty day, so you don't have that kind of thing going on. It seems to be, is it a bit cooler in Hamilton?
Well, do you know, I'm in Otatahi, Christchurch
today.
Nice.
And
it just started to rain, so it's a really nice kind of gentle rain. I think it's going to keep me nice and cool.
Brilliant. Well, you need to be cool, because cool kids do 90-day plans. See what I did there? Little segue just to get us into the topic.
That was amazing. And I was thinking, if I had better plans for today, I wouldn't be in this bloody car right now. So I'm pleased that we're talking about planning and 90-day planning. We use 90-day planning at Coffee Culture, and I also use it in my life. And I found anytime it hasn't worked, it's not because the 90-day plan didn't work. It's because I didn't work the plan. And so I think, one of the first things that's really important to look at when you're doing any kind of system is the system itself is not the miracle answer. You still have to apply yourself to the system and be diligent and faithful in its application. So if you go, I tried a 90-day plan, it didn't work, it's probably because you didn't faithfully follow up what needed to be done. So as long as you kind of can make a commitment to following some of these processes, I reckon it's a really nice way to chunk your time. I mean, what do you do 90 days? What sort of planning cycle do you use?
Yeah, well, I like the 90-day plan cycle because I guess 90 days, 12 weeks, 3 months of time to focus. And it seems that it's enough time to get some stuff done, but it doesn't feel like it's too long that it's so far in the future. So I think that where 90-day plans fit in quite well is when you've got your goals for the year or when you've got your 2-year plan or even longer, breaking it down into smaller chunks allows you to focus specifically on something that you want to get done, or allows you to focus specifically on a context of something that you're wanting to develop. So I love having a context of what I'm trying to do over my 90 days. So it might be I want to increase the quality of my relationships, and that's going to be the focus of what I'm doing over my 90 days. So in my meetings that I'm setting up, I might spend a little bit more time connecting with people, getting to know them. I might reach outside of my normal network and try to make a network or connections with other people within the context of maybe what it is that I'm trying to also do or achieve.
Yeah, I love this idea of kind of theming the 90 days. And some people do like 90 days, all inclusive, everything gets jammed in. I'm much more likely to, like you, just to put a focus across. What works as a 90-day, like as a period of time, is there's not so much pressure that you get on a monthly basis that you just can't miss a day or you're not going to achieve it. But equally, it's not so far away that there's no pressure at all. It feels like a nice kind of intensity when you get into like the, week 6. You go, halfway through, actually need to make sure I'm taking some action towards the things I want to achieve.
Which is probably why all those weight loss challenges or fitness challenges, or a lot of that stuff is around this window. Again, it's a great amount of time. Doesn't feel too all-consuming.
Yeah, and it fits really nicely with our body rhythms around seasons. Now, not every country has seasons. You might have like 2, wet and dry. We have 4 seasons in New Zealand. We often have 4 seasons in one day even. But if you think about summer, winter, autumn, spring, these all represent seasons in our life. And I really like to match my 90 days with the feeling or the mood of the season, so that there's this congruence between this is what's happening in April, May, June. This is what's happening in society or in nature. What's the rhythm of it? And can I make my big picture goals align to that 90-day theme?
Maybe if you're starting to think about a 90-day plan, actually do a little bit of formal planning at the beginning. Like, what is your end result that you're wanting to achieve? And it might be that you're doing a sub 90 days in amongst a bigger project. So your bigger project is you need to do X, and one of those tasks is Y. And so you're going to spend the next 90 days focusing on that specific thing within the project. So it allows you to narrow your focus down, make sure that you're really shifting the dial and getting that thing done.
Thinking about that formal planning process, what I like to do, I actually have calendars that have, like, you might be doing this digitally. Yay! I'm old lady, old school. I get some stickers and some coloured pens, and I get some month planners, and I lay out the 3 months. So I can actually see the 90 days across those 3 months, and I can visualize what's the shape of that. So those of you that are experts in kind of physical training will know the idea about building a program and plateaus and tapers and all the periodization, all of that kind of thing. It's the same when we're doing our 90-day planning. I love what you're talking about, knowing what you want at the end. What do you want to feel like? What do you want to be able to do? What do you want to be able to show? What's the outworking of that particular thing? And then you just break it down into the chunks and go, so what am I going to need to do in the first few weeks? What am I going to need to do in the next few weeks? Working backwards, you want to also make sure you've got some fat in there. So some days that you're not going to be doing anything towards your 90-day plan. There's nothing happening on those particular days. And you can see that when it's really clearly laid out across the 3 months.
And if we think about what we did when we built the 30-minute presenter program, we basically built that in 90 days, right? So at the start, we kind of figured out we wanted to build an online course. We had an idea of what the course was going to be, and that we wanted to be able to go live in 90 days. And then we just started to work backwards, and it was starting out mapping out the content, like what needs to be in there. And we spent some time planning, and then we started to chunk the time up into, well, when are we going to record this one? When are we going to record that one? When are we going to do the editing? All of that kind of stuff. So it just became much more achievable, and it was much easier for me to stay on track than it was to actually be thinking, well, I'm going to have it executed in 90 days. Because I think if I just set the intention, I would have got 30 days in and then realized I was starting to run out of time, as opposed to we know where we want to be. When are we going to do it? What needs to be in place? And then, and then we just execute it.
Yeah, see, I think what happens without that planning, where you look at the 3 months or the 12 weeks out in front of you, people have 90-day plans that they execute in 30 days. Because for the first 2 months, they do nothing. And I see this all the time in our organization, where we go, here's some things we want to have finished in 90 days. And if you don't backfill it, you tend to start it way too late. So I think the getting it all out is really important. The idea of chunking it down, what are the composite parts, and how much energy and time do you need to give to each of the parts is really important. And I love this idea that you and I have talked about before, in terms of using what we know about ourselves to get the best out of ourselves. So you know that I struggle with this whole 3 o'clock thing. I go to the supermarket and the peanut slab calls me, eat me, Sarge, eat me. And I think about everything I've read about willpower, everything I've read about having a vision on your fridge of what health and fitness means to you. And for me, it doesn't mean a 3 o'clock peanut slab. But when I'm at the checkout and I'm having this battle and I'm having to draw on all of my energy and discipline and willpower, and then I feel terrible when I give in to the sugar that's calling to me, and I'm giving myself the wrong challenge, because the problem is not the 3 o'clock peanut slab. The problem is not having lunch. And if I just had lunch, then I wouldn't be in that same zone at 3 o'clock in the afternoon where I'm feeling energy depleted. And I think it's the same when we look at how we go about completing a project or a task, is we've got to pay attention to what our natural rhythms are. So if you go, oh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a photo album together for my son's 16th birthday, and I'm going to do it at 9 o'clock at night. And then you get to 9 o'clock at night and you go, oh, I just don't have the energy anymore. That's just dumb. Recognize when are the times that you have the most energy. And as you're plotting your 90 days, you can go, actually, realistically, I'm good in the morning. So I just need to go half an hour earlier, a couple of mornings a week, to get this project completed. So kind of working with our natural rhythms is so important. I mean, I know you're good at this. You do lots of that kind of stuff. Can you share some examples of that you do?
Well, one of the ways that I start out from a planning perspective is, it's going to sound a little bit old school, but it's literally like the post-it thing, right? So what I'll do is I go, okay, I need to do X. So I'll list down every task that needs to be completed in order for me to get to X. And then just highlight what needs to have more of your time or more help or more resource. So like once you actually start mapping it out and putting it down, you'll quickly realize that you actually understand what it is you need to do much more than you think you do. It's just the understanding of how much time each thing will take and then giving it the appropriate amount of space.
Yeah. How many times do you hear people say, I just don't know where to start?
Yeah.
And I actually think we do know where to start. Most of the time we know where to start, and it's called Google. Go to Google and it will give you some answers on how to start something. But recognizing as you're doing the planning, how much time it's going to take and when you are best placed to do that, both within the 90-day cycle and just on a day-to-day basis, is really important.
Yeah. And if we use it like an example for just everyday life, like you're going to do the groceries. So you can either just go to the grocery store and just try and wing it and then get home and go, oh, forgot the milk. Oh, didn't get the celery. And then you have to go back. And then you get home again and you go, oh, I haven't got that spice because I was going to do this chicken dish tonight. And it just becomes backwards and forwards, and you end up spending more money. You end up wasting time in order to get basically exactly the same result. If you actually spent the time planning, like what do I actually need? Now that planning could be you in the lounge just writing a list, and then you go to the supermarket, and then you get home and go, oh, actually, I didn't check the fridge. I haven't got any milk. So, or it could be you planning in the kitchen, literally going to the cupboards, literally opening them up and having a look at what you have or what you don't have and writing the list down, asking people in the family what they would like for the rest of the week to eat, and actually making a comprehensive list. All of that investment of time that might have taken you another 30 minutes will save you, and I'm going to say hundreds of dollars and hours of time.
Hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, and maybe that's a very simple, silly example, but how many times do we start stuff and just not have a plan and just hope we get there? And as a result, we end up spending money and spending time we don't have.
So one of my friends in Hamilton, famous in Hamilton, his name is Andrew Johnston. He runs a software company amongst other things. Really, really smart. And he's well known for the fact that him and his wife have monthly menu planners. So often when you get together in like a business context, people will talk about what they're doing, and then maybe it's after work drinks, and then they'll go, oh, shit, what am I going to have for dinner? I'm going to stop at the supermarket. And he'll say, oh, do you not monthly meal plan? And he has this entirely appropriate amount of condescension when he says, oh, do you not monthly meal plan? And the first time I said, oh, tell me about this. He said, oh, have you not heard? Apparently everyone knows about it. And when I heard him explain that him and his wife just sit down every month and they do a monthly meal plan, and that generates their online shopping, and and away they go, I thought, wow, I get how this works, but it feels like impossible. I could never be that organized. And as I get busier in my life, when I'm at the supermarket, walking up and down the aisles 5 days a week, I go, you deserve every bit of stupid outcome that's coming your way because you know better. You could be following the Andrew Johnson monthly meal planner, but it's just an analogy. I mean, it's a true example, but it's an analogy for so many things in our life that if we just took that time to plan, they would go much better, right? And that's the idea behind the 90-day plans.
That's right. And then you could go to Costco and buy 1,000 peanut slabs and have them ready to go.
Ash. Okay, so with your 90-day plans, one of the things you've got to do is check in. I check in weekly so that I go, how am I going against the plan? Have I done the tasks that I needed to do this week? Can I catch them up next week if I've missed them? Because if you don't check in weekly, the risk is you get 3 or 4 weeks in and you haven't taken the necessary action at the start. So I really like a weekly review, and it doesn't take long. It's just like a check-in on a Sunday night or on a Monday morning, whatever time frame works for you, that goes, here's what I wanted to achieve in the 90 days. And you just check in with yourself. There's some very powerful evidence-based thinking around the references back to your goals and back to your plan. It just keeps us aligned with what it was that we set out to do. So people poo-poo the idea of having, your health and fitness lifestyle on your fridge or a vision board that has the things that you're working towards. The reason that these things work is because they serve as a reminder to us of who it is that we want to be when we've actually given it the thought and the time that it deserves. So if I ask you, who are you-ish at your very best? So I say, think of Ish as dad, the dad role you play. If I ask you to spend some time thinking about it and for you to articulate what you do when you are at your best, I reckon you're going to say things like, I spend regular time with my girls. I think about what their needs are. I think about what they might need me to be, all of that stuff. And if you wrote that down, that's you at your best. And then on a daily or weekly basis checked in with that, that's going to keep your behavior way more on track than if you don't think about it. And just one day you wake up and you go, I haven't spoken to the girls lately. As an example, right? It's the recognition of who did I want to be when I actually gave it some conscious thought, not just when I was getting caught up in my everyday life.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-Minute Presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-Minute Presenter program. Yeah, and that's where you start to, when you really look at your plans, is what could stop you from achieving that plan?
Great question.
Yeah, what's going to stop you from being the best-ish that you can be during the 90 days in order to complete the thing?
I don't want to be the best-ish. I want to be the best.
You want to be
the just
the
feels like a bit of a, good-ish.
So it might be that you are watching a Netflix series and you know that's going to distract you. So how are you going to avoid that? Are you going to restructure the time you get up, to get an extra 30 minutes, hour that you might need? How are you going to get that uninterrupted time? And also, what are the measures that you might put in place if those things then happen to get you back on track? So all of that thinking is the power in behind the plan. And if we bring this back to a fitness goal, what are you going to do when the cravings start? Or what are you going to do when you don't feel like getting up early? Or what are you going to do when your training buddy can't go to the gym and you need to go on your own? So it's thinking about all of that stuff so that when they happen, you're more prepared than you would be if you're just winging it.
Yeah, and in the middle of or at the start of your planning process, saying what could go wrong and how will I deal with that? I've got an incident not an incident. It was a deliberate thing that happened on Saturday night. And it kind of makes me sound like the hero of the story, but I don't think I am, but it was just interesting to me. I went to one of my best friends from school, in fact, Kate. Hi, Kate. It was Kate's 50th. So I'm at, 50th, it's all this year. It's a whole season of 50ths. And the party started at 5, and Chris and Porsche came with me, and we were there not long after 5. And, we had a lovely time catching up with people. I was always going to be the sober driver. And so we had some little boogieing and we barbecued and it was lovely. And at about 10:30, the Coburn-Houston family were ready to go home. And we weren't the first to leave, but we were close to the first to leave. And this is my best friend who I love very, very dearly. And I suspected that the party might go really late. And on the one hand, I would have loved to have stayed late, but I also have made decisions about my health where I'm prioritizing sleep. And that sounds incredibly kind of selfish and geeky to go, leaving the party early to sleep. And yes, I am, because I've got some things that I want to achieve over the next few weeks and months. And I'm just committed to getting the right amount of sleep that enables me to perform at my best. So I'm not emotionally drained. I'm not physically wrecked. I'm not dealing with a hangover. And as I left the party, I had this sort of wistfulness. I was like a little bit like, oh. And I woke up on Sunday morning and I went, yes, I'm awake and ready to go. And there are little sacrifices that you make when you have a plan and you know what it is that you want to achieve and you know what's best for you. But if in the moment I had just been like, oh, how do I feel? I feel like staying. I want to stay. But what decision did you make when you were in your best frame of mind about what you were going to do? And my best frame of mind wasn't at 10:30. My best frame of mind was earlier that afternoon. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, because actually the effect of your decision projects forward, right? So if you decide to stay up and drink, then the next day your productivity is affected. In fact, it's affected probably for the next 2 to 3 days. So a lot of the energy and performance you've got today is a result of what you've been doing for the last 3 days. So if you haven't moved, you haven't eaten well, you haven't drunk water, and you haven't been sleeping, then you are living in the effect of the decisions you made 3 days ago. So if you know you need to be at your best for a specific meeting or time, the preparation for that starts early. It doesn't necessarily even start the night before. But I think that sometimes we don't realize the effect of that. So when you've got your goal and 90 days, I'm doing this, we're heading towards that, I've got all of these things along the way that I need to be at my best, you're really starting to put a perspective on it for a longer period of time. And then at the end, you might go, and when I get this goal and I'm there, then I'm going to celebrate, and I'm going to stay out till 11:10 p.m.
That's outrageous.
And have a week off.
Yeah, and this is not to say, hey, don't stay out late. But it's to say stay out late because you're deliberately choosing that, and that's what you want to do. So I'm really happy on various occasions to stay out till 3 a.m. And what I'm doing then is I'm building in the pre-rest, and I'm going to build in the recovery after that. Because I'm too old now. My body doesn't bounce back like it used to. So I shouldn't be surprised by those things. So when you look at your 90-day plan, you're kind of going, what are the sacrifices I'm prepared to make? What are the things that set me up for the most success within that window?
So we've talked about those weekly check-ins to make sure that we're on track. And really, we've just covered off what you might do if you're going to celebrate at the end of 90 days. But really, it's a good opportunity also to review the success of the 90-day plan. Like, what did you achieve what you wanted to achieve? Did it roll the way you wanted it to roll? What did you have to adjust, and what learnings from that could you apply to next time? Like, often when we're in big projects that go for a long period of time and we've got our little wee sprints within that project, we have to actually review the entire project at the end to take all of the learnings, good, bad, indifferent, so that when we go into the next project, we're more educated, more prepared than we were previously.
And totally tread lightly with this stuff. It's not wrong to say, oh, I completely underestimated how long that would take. That's just a learning. That's just feedback. That's not a mistake. We get better at this planning process the more we do it because we understand more about how long things take. I mean, all through my career at law school, that's the wrong words, all through my time at law school, I would completely underestimate how long it would take me to write an essay. I would go, 3,000 word essay, that's 4 hours of work. No, it's not. I'd expect to be finished at 1 a.m. and at 5 a.m. I'd finish. And you know that from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. is not your optimal time to be writing, even if you kid yourself that you've got a bit of a roll on.
Yeah.
But that was a lesson that I was really slow to learn. Right up until my final year, I was still like, oh, yeah, I can smash that out. Now I've got a much better understanding of how long I take to do something. So it's not wrong if you fail along the way. It's just feedback so you can plan more effectively next time.
So if we sum up this session, when we come to 90-day plans, what we're saying is 90 days give you focus. They can allow you to complete something that you need to complete, but the power of the 90-day plan is based on your upfront planning, making sure that you are planning and you are planning well. You're not just reacting to things that you need to do, that you've got weekly check-ins and check-ins along the way to make sure that you are on track and that you're looking after your overall physical performance and ability over the time. If it's an important end result that you've dedicated 90 days to it, then let's bring the best of us to that plan. And then at the end, review what worked, what didn't, learn from that, and then celebrate like a boss and stay out late. Well, if that's your thing. We'll go to the movies.
I'm thinking, Ash, that this is so boring. Oh my God, it's boring. Like, is anybody still listening? But it just reminds me of the dean when I was at Harvard Business School. His whole kind of vibe for a lot of what he was talking about was this idea about how we can be more creative and more innovative if we are also have really good structure and process. And structure and process, repeatable process, is what enables us to scale our results. And I said to him, so what you're saying, Anant, is that boring is good. Boring is good. And I've really taken that on board for myself. The more boring I can get about certain aspects of my life and planning, actually the freer I am to enjoy so many other parts of my life. It's the planning that actually sets you free. It's this great paradox that the more planned you are, the more freedom you have for spontaneity. And we should talk about that, but another time, because people have already lost the will if they've listened this far.
So I went and saw the Air movie the other day, the Nike.
Oh, the Nike one. Is it good?
It's so good. It was actually a bit of an.
Roll with good movies.
I am on a roll. It was a bit of an eye opener actually, because I guess I've always considered Nike to have, the market share, right, when it came to kind of sports apparel. But through the 80s, they were predominantly a running company. And so they had really minimal basketball reach. So I think it was something like 14%. And everybody was Converse and everybody was Adidas, or Adidas, as they say in the movie.
Adidas.
But Nike managed to sign Michael Jordan, and that is basically about how they did it, because he did not want to sign with Nike. He wanted to go with Adidas, and if it wasn't Adidas, it was going to be Converse. So it's a phenomenal movie for the ability to persuade and influence and that stubbornness. But there's a great understory around his relationship with his parents and his mum, who was just a key negotiator and influencer in his life. And I was actually a clip right at the end where Michael Jordan is talking, and he's 48 years old, and he says, "I'm still being parented by my mother," and he's still learning. It was really cool. So yeah, great movie if you're looking for something good to go along to.
And did they settle the debate between whether it's Nike or Nike? Remember when people used to call it Nike? Go, what the hell are you talking about?
No, but there's a joke where the guy said, "I thought it was Nicky when I first saw it." saw it written down. But yeah, no, it's pretty good. And it's got some funny characters in it, just the way that they play on the CEO's role and the designer's role. It's really good.
Oh, that is incredible. I've got a stare for you. Watch Jury Duty.
Okay.
So it's a little bit like The Office. So it's a kind of mockumentary style, but it has a wee stinger that I didn't know about until my family let me know. And it's yeah, I want you to watch it and then we'll talk about
All right, sounds good.
Even watch like 1 or 2 and then we'll... Jury duty, people, jury duty.